Good morning. Welcome to the very first Southwest Alternative Building Conference. One more round of applause for Penny for putting this together. My name is Jonathan, but you probably know my wife and I as Tiny Shiny Home. Since moving to Arizona 4 years ago and starting our own natural building journey, we've seen an explosion in interest and ideas and methods and creativity and community all around creating a life that's more natural and sustainable than the one that we left behind. But I'm here this morning to ask why. Why are so many of us searching for something simpler? And why are we drawn to these alternative building methods? And why is this movement so important? So first, let's talk about how we got here, because historically, when we used to build stuff, we relied on the local environment and its resources. The Great Pyramids of Giza, they use local limestone quarries for the majority of their blocks. Early construction of the Great Wall of China was made using local rammed earth, with some parts are still standing today. The Pont du Gard brought in over 50 tons of rock from a nearby quarry. And the Temple of Petra is literally carved out of a mountain. I really wanted to play the Indiana Jones theme song here, but didn't happen. But as we moved into the industrialized age, this all started to change, right? Coal mining gave way to the steam engine, which allowed locomotives and steamboats to transport building materials quickly over really long distances. This meant a company that made 2x4s locally could now ship them anywhere, which meant production needed to increase, which meant factories and trade routes and infrastructures and building codes and all that fun stuff that we have now, because everybody could get the same 2x4, right? And at the time, this wasn't necessarily a bad thing. The progress that was made during the Industrial Revolution was really good. It increased our quality of life. We got electricity, modern medicine, running water. We actually more than doubled our lifespan since the 1700s. But however good those intentions were all those years ago, the industry has reached a scale that's starting to tip back in the other direction. We're starting to see the cost of true massive manufacturing scale, and it's not very good. The construction industry accounts for nearly 40% of worldwide energy usage, 23% of air pollution, 50% of climatic change, 40% of drinking water pollution, and 50% of landfill waste. Not only that, but it's been estimated that the construction industry also accounts for 25% of non-industrial waste. And that's just what it takes to build the buildings that we're working and we're living in. The buildings that we're making are also full of chemicals and toxins. The paint that we put on our walls are full of VOCs, which can cause cancer and birth defects. The fire retardants in furniture and textiles have PBDEs, which can cause tumors and thyroid issues. And formaldehyde is still being used in particle boards and plywoods and can cause major respiratory problems. You know, before I started researching for this talk, I knew it was bad, but I didn't know it was this bad. This is kind of ridiculous, right? But we're not here for doom and gloom today. Each of us are here because we want to see a better way forward. We know that the current way of building a house is not great. So let's talk about how we can make it better. The first is cost and accessibility. The average cost to build a house in Arizona in 2024 is anywhere from $300,000 to $600,000, which is crazy, right? One website that I ran across said to set aside $100,000 just for your framing. So I think it's safe to say that we've reached a point where being able to build a traditional house is just out of reach for most of us, which really sucks, because being able to build a safe, permanent dwelling as cost effectively as possible shouldn't feel like it's impossible. It contributes to the homeless population, and it adds a ton of stress to those of us who are sort of, playing by the rules and getting a mortgage because now our payments are crazy high and we just can't keep up. I think the natural building can help put the power back in our hands to build ourselves and not spend the next 3 decades of our lives in debt trying to pay off the place that we're living in. Programs like the Owner Builder Opt-out, where we live in Cochise County, allow individuals to design and construct and create their own structures with limited inspections and oversight. This means that you don't have to spend thousands of extra dollars in permits and fees or engineering plans. You don't have to be a licensed contractor or plumber or electrician or professional to create your own home. And shout out to Ashley here in her awesome welding gear, learning to weld. I love it. As we all know, alternative building is a perfect way to offset many of these costs because we can source local and natural materials at a fraction of the price. So I think we can all agree that natural building is an important step towards creating affordable and accessible housing for all of us who don't want to incur a massive amount of debt. Next is efficiency. We said earlier that the construction of our house and businesses account for about 40% of global energy usage. But you still have to live in them and work in them, right? That adds another 20 to 25%. So that means that between the two, over half of our worldwide energy usage comes from the buildings that we're making. So the second way that we can make this better is to not only find more efficient ways to build, but also better ways to insulate, to heat and cool what we're building. Of course, you all know this, right? Putting dirt from your own property into a bag to make a wall saves on gas, transportation, money, and by not relying on big machines or generators, you get to create a safer, quieter, and less polluted working environment. There is something pretty magical about working with your hands in the dirt, soaking up the sounds of nature around you. It feels good, right? It doesn't mean it's faster, though. Yeah, there's trade-offs, right? We're choosing the path less traveled, and that may come with obstacles, and the sheer amount of just physical labor is one of them. And that's why community is so important, which we'll get to in a minute. Natural building can also be more energy efficient. Straw bale and cob create a densely insulated wall structure, and earth bags use thermal mass to pass the energy through while keeping temperatures stable. You combine that with solar power and natural heating and cooling elements, and we have a real opportunity to build a house that performs way better than any modern stick-built house. A lot of these ideas are ancient and they're weird and they're not traditional, but that's what makes them so powerful. At a time when the construction industry really needs a shakeup, it needs people like you to take these big risks and ask these big questions and help move us forward. So how else can natural building be better than traditional builds? Earthquake and fire resistance. Earthbag buildings, especially domes with barbed wire reinforcement, have been shown to hold up remarkably well to seismic activity. And anything that's circular and interlocked is going to fare better than a bunch of straight walls and sharp corners. So when we build with earth and into the earth, we create a strong but flexible structure that allows the quake to actually move through it. Let's talk about fires. Recent research has shown that forest fires are burning twice as much tree cover as they did 20 years ago. And with the increased droughts and stronger winds, we're all too aware of how dangerous a small spark can be here in the desert too. The good news is dirt doesn't really burn. So earthbag, rammed earth, and cob walls are all going to be very inherently fire resistant. And a properly packed straw bale wall shouldn't have oxygen for combustion. On top of that, most of us are going to be putting some sort of natural earthen or cement-based plaster on the outside of our buildings, which will also slow down that combustion. Also, since we're more in tune with nature and what our land is doing and weather patterns and things like that, we're going to be more likely to add additional natural protection to our property. So this example is a berm and a swale. It's a trench that's cut on contour, and this stops sheet flowing water. And then on the other side of that, you have a berm, and you can plant trees in it. And so the water will flow in there, and it'll help grow those trees quickly, which then can be a wind and a fire break for your important buildings. Again, we're reaching back into the past for many of these ideas. The berm and swale are ancient things that have been going on for centuries, but it's cool that all this stuff is still really relevant even today. Speaking of the past, natural buildings have also been proven to be very resilient to time as well, right? Did you know that at least 175 of UNESCO's World Heritage Sites are built with earth? So here's a few examples. The Grand Mosque was built in 1907, and it remains one of the largest mud brick buildings in the world. Like we mentioned earlier, parts of the Great Wall of China have several kilometers built from rammed earth where stone wasn't available, and these sections are nearly 2,500 years old. Here in the US, the Mesa Verde is home of the Cliff Palace. It's an incredible cliff dwelling made up of local sandstone rocks, mortar, and wooden beams that's over 800 years old. Taos Pueblo features sun-dried bricks, making up walls several feet thick, timber roofs packed with more dirt, and thin washes of white earthen exterior. This is believed to have been built between 1000 and 1450 AD. And there's Bandelier National Monument, one of the coolest places we've ever visited. They have cavates that are literally carved out of the volcanic cliffs. They're over 800 years old. I mean, this is what I want to do. I want a cliff that I can just carve a building out of. This is the original natural building, right? Modern stick-built homes are estimated to last anywhere from 30 to 70 years. I don't know about you, but the goal on our homestead is to build something that lasts for generations, something that hundreds of years from now is still going to be standing and strong. Yeah, it takes a lot longer to build this way, but when you put it up against a house that costs 10 times as much and barely lasts a single lifetime, this is what we're fighting against, right? It's the investment that's unsustainable for most of us, the declining quality and longevity after we've spent so much of our lives paying for the thing. Natural building is opening the door to change all that. I mean, who knows? Maybe one day some of our buildings will be national monuments because they're still standing, right? It could happen. I don't know. Another reason so many of us are looking to get back to a simpler life is just the overwhelmingness of modern society. Yeah, I'm making up words now. Overwhelmingness. Everyone seems to be just stressed and sick and depressed and unhappy and out of shape. But if we choose to build alternatively and naturally, it sort of puts us in a position to sidestep a lot of that, right? Because we get to be outside in nature while we're working on our projects. Did you know that nearly 4 out of 10 people in the US have vitamin D deficiency? And did you know that vitamin D affects everything in your body from bone and joint pain to muscle cramps and tiredness and depression? Thankfully, we get to breathe fresh, clean air. We get to feel the wind. We get to let our bodies adapt naturally to the changing seasons. We're building and making important things with our hands that give us purpose. Even better, we know that we're building in sustainable ways that will help preserve our local ecosystems and keep us feeling good about the choices that we're making. All those things add up to a much healthier outlook, better physical and mental health, and the knowledge that we're taking action and making a difference. And baby kittens don't help either. Don't hurt either, yes. It always puts you in a good mood. All right, I want to get honest with you guys. I'm not a math guy. I don't like math. It doesn't like me. I'm just going to throw that out into the world. The good news is traditional building requires, or the bad news is traditional building requires a ton of math and rules and sameness. But natural building doesn't have to be like that. Something that really excites me about natural building is the opportunity to experiment and to be creative, to find the art in what we're making and not just the function. Whether that's designing an entire space specifically for how you want to use it, or experimenting with recycled bottles to create something beautiful and unexpected. The wonderful thing about all of this is that there are plenty of people that have done this for centuries before us, and many of them have shared that knowledge, but there's still space for us to take that and remix it and call it our own. Most of us aren't working with a large crew on a tight timeline. We're not trying to squeeze every last bit of profit out of our builds. So we get to sweat the details. We get to make our art, and we get to handcraft something personal and special. And unfortunately, this is being lost, right? That a human gets to touch the thing that they're making with purpose and intent and meaning. And natural building, thankfully, is always going to make sure that we're still getting our hands dirty. So finally, I believe that building alternatively creates community and helps us find a better way forward. Over in our neck of the woods, we've seen several barn raiser type communities spring up. Everyone comes together to help an individual with a specific part of their project, making massive progress in a short amount of time. This happens on a regular schedule, and everyone is more than happy to help their neighbor get through a difficult part of that build. There's a shared sense of knowledge and community that just isn't present in a suburban neighborhood because we're all working towards the same thing. Personally, we've found community online as well, right? As we started our journey on YouTube, we have been amazed over and over again at the support of those watching and how that is bled into real life as they come to our events and they learn how to do the same things that we are doing here on our property, which is pretty cool. So, speaking of learning from each other, we have a fantastic lineup of speakers today. Yeah. We've got Nancy and Jeff Coker. We've got Richard Ward, Kern Collymore, Joshua Shaw, Rod Rylander, Clay Greathouse, Arizona Adam, Craig McEwen, Jake Long, and James Holland. I know today is going to be an epic experience for everybody. Ashley and I will be here all day. We're at the table over the corner here. We're going to be answering all your questions about Hyper Adobe. We're so glad that we're here with you. So let's start taking notes and start working towards a safer, more natural, and sustainable tomorrow. Thank you. Are we doing questions? Are we doing questions? Sure.
About 10 minutes if there's any questions now. Otherwise,
Running ahead.
I see a question in the back. It's in Southeast Arizona. About an hour and a half, 2 hours from here. That's all you get from me. Any other questions? Yeah. Hyper Adobe earth bags. So you can probably see them over here at the corner. There's different ways of taking a tube-like material and filling with dirt and maybe some cement, some water. You compact it and tamp it into place. And it's a really cheap and easy way to build walls up quickly. It's kind of like a 3D printer, except you're the printer, right? And so you're laying those bags and filling them and tamping them as you go. And so I didn't get into it here because I was kind of welcoming everybody, but we'll have some videos playing over here. It's how we built 3 buildings, and we're working on our house right now. And it's a really it's a really nice way to build, especially if you're going straight up and you're not doing a dome. It's a really cheap way to do that. Yeah. Well, thank you. Sure. No. No, thank you. Thank you. Yep. Yep. Yeah. They might, yeah. New ones apparently not as long. Yeah, they're new. It's all about that profit and trying to get things done as quickly and cheaply as possible. And also most, everything's conglomerated, right? So you have much larger companies building huge amounts of the same house. So they're trying to do it faster. Whereas before is probably small companies that really took pride in what they did. Yeah, it's just, it's the natural evolution of our economy, apparently. Yeah. Any other questions? Yeah. Oh, 100%. Yeah. The trees are different. Yeah. Oh, permitting. So at least where we are, you get one house, right? One living structure, and then you can permit additional, I don't remember what they call them, accessory structures. If they're under 200 square feet, you don't have to permit them. If they're over, then you do. Um, I don't think there's too much of a limit. I mean, not enough where it would be a problem that I'm aware of. Yeah. Yep. Mhm. Yeah. Because it was right when the supply chain got goofy and the cost of lumber like doubled or tripled, and we were going to deck the bottom, and we're like, no, we're not spending that much on a tiny shed. That's crazy. So that's what actually led us to Clay. Where'd Clay go? There, Clay Greathouse. He introduced us to Hyper W bags, and that the rest is history. Yeah. So, any other questions? Am I done? I'm off the hook. Sweet. All right. Thank you guys again. Like I said, we'll be in the corner. Have a good time.
Appreciate it. Thank you, Jonathan. To quote your words, that was real awesome fullness. And I appreciate your strategery. Our next speaker is Jake Long. Jake will be presenting his off-grid owner building experience, building a home in Cochise County. Jake, his wife Katie, and their two children call Portal Home, and he will be sharing the trials and triumphs that came with his owner builder journey. An Eskimo once asked Jake what to do after his ice house fell down, and he told him to igloo it together. Yeah, never mind. Let's give a round of applause for Jake. Where are you at?
Have a few minutes and I'm trying to find dates and somewhere.
We're trying to find Jake. Yeah, we are running ahead. So. Yeah, we're all right. We'll go ahead and take a break while we wait for Jake. Hey, that rhymes. All right, we'll see you in a little bit. Two-minute warning. We're going to get started again. Please take your seats. Pete. Okay, everybody in their seats? Looks like we have a couple more coming in. Should be right around 10 o'clock. Okay, our next speaker was Jake Long, and I called him a little while ago and he wasn't here, and he has asked that he just switch places and go on after the next speaker. So we're moving Craig McEwen up, which means Craig hasn't had any time to get nervous. So that'll work in his favor. Craig McEwen and his wife, Juvie, moved south of Rodeo, New Mexico in 2004. They built a home to accommodate Craig's chemical sensitivities, which were much more severe in the early 2000s. The exterior of their house is rock and mortar with an interior walls of burnt adobe brick and mortar, as well as adobe plaster on expanded metal lathe. The house's insulation is soy-based spray foam. So when they're having Asian food, they could eat the wall too. The interior adobe plaster, I had to say that, I just couldn't pass up. The interior adobe plaster was made from on-site clay and nearby sand with dried grass clippings. Craig will take questions afterwards and share home building methods for the chemically sensitive. Craig?
Okay, I did not go through this on the remote. So I think I have it backwards. Yeah, all right. I think I can go with it now. Well, just slightly, a little bit about me. In high school, I